So, I'm formally inviting you to come play this game of thriving in your own life so that you can experience an ever-increasing amount of prosperity, pleasure, and purpose. Now, as with all invitations, you get to accept or decline based on whether or not you think it's in your best interest to play or not to play. There's no right or wrong answer. There's only what makes sense to you and what do you want for your life and for your future. So the question on the table really becomes, is the game of thriving a fit for you and for your values? Because if the game speaks to you, if you see yourself thriving because of it, and that vision resonates with your heart and gut as something right and true for you, then this invitation will positively change your life. On the other hand, if the game of thriving isn't a fit for you, well, no harm, no foul. The key is for you to get clear about what's true for you so that you can make an optimal choice about whether it's in your best interest to play or not to play. So, I want to offer you two questions to help you clarify whether or not choosing to play the game of thriving makes sense for you. First question is, what kind of life do you want to live? Now, to help you answer that, I'll set up two opposite poles of a spectrum so you can see where you fit on the spectrum. So, on the one hand, do you want your life to be fine, okay, good enough, where it's as expected and you're not rocking the boat, and next year is pretty much like this year? Or on the other, do you want it to be fantastic and extraordinary and inspiring, where you live passionately, take on new challenges, and have your future be increasingly abundant, more fulfilling, and more beautiful? Now, to be clear, both of these are fully legitimate choices. The question is, which one is more true for you and for what you want in your life? Because if you want your life to be predictable and fine and good enough, then the game of thriving is probably not a good fit for you. Thriving is about having a life that you're more excited to wake up to each day, including consciously envisioning the future you desire so that you can systematically make it a reality. Now, if that's the kind of life you want to live, then the game of thriving will equip you to create it. And that brings us to the second question. What part do you play in living a thriving life? What is your role in that process? Again, a spectrum. On the one hand, do you see your role as one of passively waiting and hoping and praying and accepting what society and your current habits provide for you? Or on the other, do you see your role as proactively choosing the life you want to live and taking focused and intelligent action to systematically create it in your life? Again, if you're on the waiting and hoping and wishing side of the spectrum, that's fine, but the game of thriving really isn't a good fit for you. Thriving is about taking a hold of the reins in your life to systematically and actively create a life you can't wait to wake up to. The game of thriving will give you the strategies, the skills, the structure, and the support to make that happen. If you are on the thriving side of the spectrum for both of these questions, if you want to actively create an increasingly beautiful life rather than passively accepting what the world happens to bring you, then I encourage you to seriously investigate what the game of thriving has to offer, because it just might change the very course of your life forever. Let me ask you, and remember, you're the only one who can hear your answer. As you look back on the last month, the last 3 months, the last year of your life, or longer if you want, on a scale of 1 to 10, how focused were you on discovering and implementing breakthrough ideas to optimally enhance your life? Take a moment and look back. Scale of 1 to 10. How focused were you on thriving in prosperity, pleasure, and purpose? Now, this isn't about patting yourself on the back or beating yourself up. It's just honestly examining, how have you been doing? Where's your focus been? Now, look to the future. Go out 3 months, a year, 3 years, 10 years. But this time, imagine that you've been approaching your life as a game of thriving, where you learned an integrated set of tools to systematically course correct your life towards an increasingly optimal choices in all the important areas of your life. And now, notice how all those positive choices multiplied on one another, like compound interest, opening up entire new worlds of prosperity, pleasure, and purpose for yourself, for those you love, and for your community. As you experience that future now, notice how you feel about the choice that your previous self made way back then to focus on thriving and get truly serious about having fun in your life. As that future self, how do you feel about the you way back then that made that choice to thrive, that gave you the life that you have now? And now, notice that that self way back then has yet to make the choice about whether or not it's in their best interest to play the game of thriving. They're still listening to the video, and they haven't yet taken that step. I wonder, from this future experience, do you have any advice for them? Remember, no one else can hear you. If you have any advice for them, now would be a good time to share it. Okay, now, notice that you're back in this present moment, listening to my voice, in the process of clarifying whether or not you're going to learn more or just start playing the game of thriving. If your future self gave you any advice, now would be a good time to listen to it. The choice is yours. Again, I'm Mark Michael Lewis, the Thrive Coach, head coach of the game of thriving, where the more you play, the better your life gets. Thanks for listening, and make your deepest happiness your highest priority.